Have you ever thought about what happens when the very people you've sacrificed everything for, your children, start seeing you as a burden instead of a blessing? My name is Emily Lawson, a 69-year-old retired social worker from Houston, and this was my painful reality. After spending 3 decades helping seniors navigate their lives, I believed I had seen it all. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment when my children pushed me toward a nursing home I never wanted, all while eyeing my savings for their own needs. It's a story that may strike a chord with you, and I believe it's one you need to hear, especially if you're facing retirement or thinking about your future. Imagine this: double knee surgery left me unable to care for myself, and suddenly, my options fell hopeless. $3,000 a month for a nursing home, $5,000 for a caregiver, or staying under my children's watchful eye, feeling like an unwanted guest. But I found a way out, a solution that slashed those costs to just $200 a month. Trust me when I say, this isn't what you'd expect. This isn't just my story. It's a lifeline for anyone worried about their future in retirement. You'll learn how to avoid the traps I've seen seniors fall into, like losing control of their finances or becoming isolated. I'm going to share practical steps to help you maintain your independence, as well as some hard truths about family dynamics that you won't hear in any glossy brochures. Stay with me, because the solution I'm about to reveal could change your future, and maybe even heal the relationships that have been strained with your loved ones. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do and hit the notification bell so you never miss any videos. Your support means the world to me, and if this video resonated with you, please consider liking and sharing it so that I can keep sharing these invaluable lessons. If you're interested in the topic of this video, please leave a 1 in the comments. If not, please comment 0 so I can continue improving and creating better content for you. Let's get started. Those were the words of the director at the Senior Services Center as she handed me a bouquet on my retirement day. 30 years flew by in the blink of an eye. During that time, I met thousands of older adults, each with their own story to tell. Many of the people I counseled over the years would bring me homemade gifts during the holidays, like cookies at Christmas or hand-knit scarves. The most common thing I heard while listening to their stories was this: "Miss Emily, don't end up like me." One client, Ruth Davidson, an 80-year-old woman, raised 3 kids and gave them everything, even her home, but ended up in a nursing home. I still remember the first time we met. She held my hand tightly and said, "At first, they came once a week, but after 3 months, it was just on holidays. Now they don't even pick up my calls. I gave them everything I saved my whole life." Stories like hers were all too familiar. Many seniors I worked with drained their savings to help their children, selling their homes to buy houses for their kids, using their pensions to cover medical costs, even paying for their grandkids' college tuition, only to end up in nursing homes. I lost track of how many times I heard these heartbreaking tales. Every time, I jot down in my notebook with a red pen: never give up control of your finances to your children. Secure your independence. Don't rely on your children. Take responsibility for your retirement. That advice stayed tucked away in my drawer until I retired. But isn't it funny? The advice I gave so many people, I couldn't follow myself. "Emily, what are you going to do after retirement?" my co-workers would ask. I'd always respond, "Travel, enjoy hobbies, maybe volunteer." I'm still young enough to do that. But honestly, I didn't have a concrete plan. I was just hoping I wouldn't get sick. But how often does life go as planned? Less than a year after I retired, my knees began to hurt. At first, I dismissed it as something that happens to people my age. Slap on a patch, take some medicine, use a heating pad. But the pain didn't go away. I finally went to the doctor. His face was serious when he showed me the results. "Emily Thompson, your MRI shows that both of your knees are severely worn. There's almost no cartilage left. You're going to need knee replacement surgery." In that moment, my mind went blank. It wasn't someone else's problem anymore. It was mine, and I felt completely lost. I'd spent my whole life helping others, and now I was the one needing help. Recovery wasn't easy. Having both knees replaced at once meant that even simple tasks, like going to the bathroom, required assistance. When I was ready to leave the hospital, my son, Mark, suggested, "Mom, why don't you come stay with us for a while? It's going to be tough living alone while you recover." I couldn't refuse. After all, I couldn't even manage on my own. So, I moved in with my eldest son's family. The first week was fine. Mark and his wife, Laura, were kind, and my grandchildren were thrilled to have me around. But things started to shift. "Mom, I've got drinks with work colleagues tonight, so I'll be late." "Hey, Mom, I'm working overtime. There's food in the fridge. Can you take care of the kids' dinner?" I found myself alone more and more. The kids started spending all their time in their rooms instead of hanging out with me in the living room, and Laura's attitude became colder. One day, as I was heading to the bathroom, I overheard her talking on the phone in the kitchen. "Mark, I just can't take it anymore. Ever since Mom moved in, everything's changed. The kids can't have friends over, and Mark doesn't even want to come home anymore. I know she's my mother-in-law, but just hang in there a little longer," Mark said. I tried, but now I'm looking into nursing homes. There's one that's $3,000 a month and looks nice. She'll have to go to one after rehab anyway. Maybe it's better if she goes sooner. My heart sank when I heard that. In that moment, I remembered all the clients I'd counseled over the years, their complaints, their tears, their regrets. And now, I was in their shoes. "Miss Emily, my kids raised me to live for them, but now they call it their house. Emily, don't end up like me." Those words that had echoed in my mind for years were now my reality. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering, I knew this could happen to me. Why didn't I prepare better for my retirement? That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to live under my kids' scrutiny any longer, nor would I spend the rest of my days isolated in a nursing home. I'd take responsibility for my own life. But it wasn't going to be easy. Financially and physically, independence was going to be a struggle. Hiring a caregiver costs more than $5,000 a month, and living alone with my knees in recovery would be challenging. So I leaned into my 30 years of experience as a social worker to find another solution. After a month of living with my son, Mark, I couldn't take it anymore, especially the cold looks from Laura and the sharpness in her voice. One evening, I finally said, "Mark, I'm feeling better now. Maybe I'll stay with your younger sister for a bit." He seemed flustered for a moment, then relieved. "Oh, sure. Emily will be happy to have you. When do you want me to drop you off?" That phrase, "drop you off," stung me, as it revealed his true feelings. "Please, leave soon." The next day, Mark drove me to my younger daughter, Emily's, house. On the way there, he cautiously spoke, "Mom, I'm sorry if Laura didn't take good care of you. It must have been cramped for you." "No, it's fine. You all are busy, and the kids can be a handful." "I get it," I said, trying to reassure him. He gave a bitter smile. Still, Emily's newly married, so it might be even more inconvenient for her. We've also been looking into some good nursing homes. They have great facilities, $3,000 a month, which your pension could cover. My heart stopped. He'd already planned to offload me. "Mark, I'm not ready for a nursing home. I've spent my whole career working with elderly people. I know better than anyone how those places are. I don't want to go there. But it's dangerous for you to live alone, Mom." When did I say I'd live alone? I'll stay with Emily until I feel stronger, and then I'll decide what to do. He couldn't argue any further. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment, one below to let me know that you are still here with me. When we arrived at Emily's house, my son-in-law, Jack, was at work, and Emily was home alone. She greeted me with a big smile. "Mom, you're finally here. I've got a room ready. It's small but still." The newlyweds' home wasn't huge, but I could see the effort she'd put into making it work. The first few days were fine. Emily was considerate, and after work, we'd watch TV together and chat. But soon, things began to shift. "Mom, I have drinks with colleagues tonight. There's food in the fridge, so help yourself," she said. "Okay, don't stay out too late," I replied. Jack was polite at first, but his words grew fewer, and eventually, even his greetings felt half-hearted. One night, I overheard them arguing through the thin walls. "How long is your mom going to stay? If I'd known it'd be like this when we got married." Jack's voice was raised. "What am I supposed to do? She's sick. Where else would she go?" Emily's voice was defensive. "Your brother's struggling too. He suggested a nursing home." "A nursing home? That's not cheap," Jack replied. "Well, with her pension and us chipping in, it could work." I felt my heart drop as I lay in bed, pulling the covers over my head. I never imagined I would become a burden to my children after everything I'd done for them. The next morning, Emily was overly cheerful, almost as if she was afraid I had overheard. "Mom, how are you feeling? Are your knees getting any better?" "Yes, they're getting better," I said. "Good. Mark called yesterday. He looked into some nursing homes," she continued. "They're nice places, Mom. Your pension could cover it," Emily added, a hint of concern in her voice. I didn't need to hear more. Both kids were telling me the same thing. "Emily, I'm not going," I said, my voice firm. "Mom, it's not that. It's just we're worried about your health. We can't take care of you properly here," she insisted. "I never asked you to. I just needed a place to stay for a little while," I replied. "But what if you get worse later?" "Emily, I've spent my whole career counseling nursing home residents. I know what it's like. Far more than you could ever imagine. Let's not talk about this anymore." She bit her lip and fell silent, but the frustration was clear in her eyes. That evening, I started packing. "Mom, what are you doing?" she asked, startled. "I'm going home," I said, trying to remain calm. "Why so suddenly? Did something happen?" she asked, confused. "Nothing special. I just don't want to be a burden to you anymore," I said, the words heavy in my chest. "Mom, what do you mean? Who said you're a burden?" Emily asked, her voice full of confusion. I took a deep breath. "You don't say it, but I see it in your eyes, your actions. I'm tired of living under someone else's roof." I paused, trying to hold back the emotions threatening to spill over. "But it's dangerous for you to be alone. Your knees aren't fully healed." Emily insisted. "It's fine. I'll go home and hire a caregiver," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Emily, flustered and unsure of what to say, quickly called Jack. Soon, he was home, and the three of us sat in the living room. "Mother-in-law, what's going on? Did we make you uncomfortable?" Jack asked, his voice tinged with concern. "No, you didn't do anything wrong. I just don't think it's right for me to stay in your newlywed home anymore," I said softly. Jack nodded, but then added, "The nursing homes are nice. My mom's been in one for 3 years and loves it." That stung more than I expected. His mother was in a nursing home too. Maybe caring for in-laws was just too much for this couple. I felt a lump in my throat. "Jack, thank you, but I've made my decision. I'm going home," I said, my voice more resolute. But a caregiver costs over $5,000 a month. Emily cried out, her eyes wide in worry. I'll figure it out, I replied, trying to reassure her. The next morning, Emily and Jack left for work, leaving behind an uncomfortable silence that lingered in the house. Then, the doorbell rang. Who is it? I called, startled. I opened the door to find Mark standing there. Why are you here? I asked, surprised. I came to pick you up, Mom, he said, walking toward me. Have you packed? I'm here to take you. I raised an eyebrow. Take me where? To our place for now. I've scheduled some tours of a few nursing homes, he said, his tone cautious. My face hardened, and he quickly added, just to look. If you don't like them, you don't have to go. In that moment, it hit me. I couldn't rely on my kids anymore. The family bond one had always cherished seemed to crumble so easily when faced with the practicalities of life. Mark, thanks, but I'm going home. Call me a taxi. Mom, it's too dangerous with your knees. Mark pleaded. I'll make my own choices, I responded, my voice calm but firm. I know you're worried, but I'm taking responsibility for my life now. So, I returned to my own home. After 8 long weeks, my house was dusty, but it was still mine. My space, where I didn't have to tiptoe around anyone. But a real problem remained. How could I manage alone with my knees still recovering? Hiring a caregiver was far too expensive with my $1,800 monthly pension. That's when a turning point came. The first day back, I could barely move due to the pain. Even going to the bathroom felt agonizing, and housework was out of the question. I couldn't call my kids. They would just say, go to a nursing home. Desperate, I called a caregiver agency. Miss Emily Thompson, you need 24-hour care, the operator asked. Yes, I had double knee surgery and can't manage alone, I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. For 24-hour care, it's $150 a day. $4, $500 a month, plus extra charges for weekends or holidays, she explained. I felt a wave of panic. My pension was only $1,800. How could I afford $4,500 a month? But I didn't want to go to a nursing home either. I knew firsthand what those places were like. Is there a cheaper option? I asked. For 12 hours a day, it's $80, a little over $2,400 a month, she offered. It was still too much, but I had no choice. Okay, let's go with 12-hour care for 3 months, I decided. I figured once my knees improved, I could manage on my own. The next day, a caregiver named Patricia arrived. She was a woman in her early 60s who seemed experienced. Hello, Ms. Emily Thompson. I'm Patricia Miller, here to help, she said with a kind smile. Nice to meet you, I replied, feeling a small sense of relief. The first few days went well. Patricia helped with chores and assisted me in the bathroom. But after a week, things started to go wrong. I can't come tomorrow, but someone else will, she said one evening. Oh, okay, I replied, trying not to show my frustration. The next day, a young woman in her mid-20s arrived. She lacked experience, didn't understand my condition, and helping me was awkward at best. Sorry, Grandma, but someone else will be coming tomorrow, she said, looking uncomfortable. The caregivers kept changing, and explaining my situation to each new person was exhausting. Some days, no one showed up at all. Sorry, Ms. Emily, today's caregiver had an emergency. We'll send someone tomorrow, the agency apologized. That day, I couldn't even get out of bed. I nearly fell trying to reach for a glass of water. After a month, the caregiver bill had reached $2,400. My pension was nowhere near enough to cover it, I had to dip into my savings. But the bigger issue was the loss of my privacy. Having a stranger in my home all the time felt suffocating. I couldn't chat freely with my friends or even relax in my own space. Even simple things like going to the bathroom with assistance felt dehumanizing. Finally, I called my son, Mark, for help. He came over with a concerned look on his face. "Mom, I told you it would be hard living alone." "You were right, Mark," I said quietly. "So, want to check out a nursing home?" "They're nice," he suggested, trying to keep things light. I paused for a moment, then nodded. It seemed like my only option. The next day, Mark took me to a place called Sunshine Nursing Home. It looked more like a hotel than a care facility. Clean, with flowers in the lobby and smiling staff welcoming us. "Welcome, Ms. Emily Thompson. Thank you for visiting us," the director said, guiding me through the facility. "We have nurses on duty every 2 hours, a doctor visits daily, and meals are specially tailored to each resident's needs." The place was impressive. Spacious rooms, clean bathrooms, and an activity room where residents could socialize. But as we walked through, I noticed something that bothered me: the residents' eyes. They were empty, lifeless, a look I had seen so many times before in the elderly clients I'd worked with. Their bodies were comfortable, but their spirits weren't. "How much is this going to cost?" I asked. $3,000 a month, plus extra for additional services," the director replied. I felt my heart sink. "My pension won't cover that," I said, quietly frustrated. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll help you out," Mark chimed in. I sighed, not wanting to rely on my children financially, but the truth was, it seemed inevitable. The director then took me to the lounge area, where I was shocked to see someone familiar. Grandma Linda, a woman I had counseled 5 years ago. She was leaning on a cane, looking frail. "Grandma Linda, you're here?" I asked, my voice trembling. The director stepped away, giving us privacy. "Even you ended up here, Miss Emily," she whispered, her voice laced with sadness. "No, I'm just visiting. How's everything going for you?" I asked gently. She glanced around, her eyes darting nervously. "It was fine at first. Clean, good food. But my kids stopped coming. What started as weekly visits turned into just the holidays, and now they don't come at all. It feels like a prison. Everything is scheduled. Wake up, eat, watch TV. I can't do anything I want." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she whispered, "Miss Emily, don't come here. If you still have a choice, find another way." That moment solidified my resolve. I wouldn't go to a nursing home. As tough as living with caregivers or with my kids was, at least I could maintain my freedom and dignity. I told Mark, "Thanks, but I'm not going." He looked at me in disbelief. "Why, Mom? It's so nice here." I shook my head. "It's not about the facility. I can't live there." On the drive home, Mark kept trying to persuade me, but I knew my mind was made up. No nursing home, no more relying on my children. But with caregiver costs being so high, what else could I do? Once home, I sat by the window, staring out, lost in thought. Nursing home, $3,000 a month. Caregiver, $2,400 to $5,000 a month. My pension, $1,800 a month. No matter how I crunched the numbers, I knew I couldn't make it on my own. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. There has to be a way. There must be, I thought, determined to find another solution. That night, I stayed up late, combing through elderly welfare materials, drawing on my 30 years of social work experience to find something affordable. The next morning, I went to the local community center. borrowing a wheelchair since my knees were still sore. Ms. Emily Thompson. It's been a while. I heard you retired, said Jessica, a staff member I'd worked with often. Yes, it's been over a year. Can I see some information about elderly welfare programs? I asked. Of course. But what happened to your legs? She asked, concerned. Double knee replacement. I'm still recovering, I explained. Jessica frowned. That must make living alone difficult. Have you heard of senior welfare housing? What's that? I asked, intrigued. She led me to a bulletin board with a senior welfare housing flyer. It's affordable rental housing for people over 65, with senior-friendly facilities, she explained. I read the flyer closely, $180 a month, with a $10,000 deposit. Far cheaper than regular rent. It provides independence, plus support from a welfare assistant when needed, it said. My heart raced. Compared to $3,000 for a nursing home or $2,400 for a caregiver, $180 a month seemed manageable with my pension. Can I see more details? I asked eagerly. Jessica brought me a brochure. The housing was barrier-free, wheelchair-accessible, with safety bars in the bathroom, an emergency bell, and a welfare assistant who would visit 2 or 3 times a week. Best of all, because I had a background as a social worker, I would get bonus points to improve my chances of eligibility. Jessica, this looks amazing. How do I apply? I asked. Here's the paperwork. We'll help you with the process. With your experience, you have a strong chance of getting in, she replied. I filled out the application on the spot, filled with hope, but facing one hurdle. My current home was under a lease, and I'd need the deposit for the welfare housing. I knew my kids had their eyes on that money. Back at home, I called Mark. Mark, I've got good news. What is it, Mom? He asked, sounding curious. Ever heard of senior welfare housing? I applied today. There was a long pause. Mom, we can't let you go there. No matter how nice, it's not as safe as a nursing home, Mark said, his voice tinged with concern. Safety isn't the issue. A nursing home isn't humane. Welfare housing gives me my own space and support, and at $180 a month, my pension covers it, I explained. $180? That cheap? He said, clearly skeptical. Yes, it's government supported, and my career as a social worker gives me bonus points, I added. Maybe look into it more before deciding. What about the lease deposit? That was the real question, the money. I'll use some for the deposit and keep the rest for my retirement, I said, trying to remain calm. Mark was silent for a moment, then replied, Mom, what about using it for a nursing home? Or maybe we could manage it for you. That hit me hard. There it was. They were after my deposit. For a nursing home, or perhaps even for their own needs. I stood my ground. Mark, it's my money, and I'll use it how I see fit. I want to live on my terms without relying on you. Mark started to protest, but I interrupted. Let's stop here. Please, come over with Emily tomorrow, and we'll talk about this. The next day, both my kids arrived, looking more serious than I'd ever seen them. Emily spoke first, concern written all over her face. Mom, are you sure this welfare housing is okay? You don't even know who else lives there, she said, worry lacing her voice. It's for seniors like me, designed specifically for people with knee surgery, safety bars, emergency bells, I explained, trying to reassure her. But what if you get sick suddenly? Emily asked, her voice filled with concern. That's what the emergency bell and welfare assistants are for, I replied firmly. Mark, clearly uneasy, asked, but what about the lease deposit? Honestly, Emily's tuition is coming up. And there it was again. The truth. They weren't concerned about me. They were focused on getting their hands on my money. Mark, did I ever ask you for money when you were grown? You handled your tuition and weddings. Never once did I ask you for a thing, I said, feeling a lump rise in my throat. Don't come after my money now. He tried to argue, but I cut him off. Enough. I raised you all, and I never prepared for my retirement. I won't let you take the little I have left. Emily's eyes welled up with tears. Mom, we're not after your money. We're just worried. If you're worried, why do you keep pushing for nursing homes? I said, my voice steady. I've seen it firsthand. Parents sent to nursing homes, and visits just taper off. That's the truth. A heavy silence filled the room. Mark sighed, his shoulders slumping. If you're set on this, I'll help with the house, he offered reluctantly. No need, I replied. I'll handle it. Jessica's helping. Emily asked nervously, Are you sure you'll be okay? I took a deep breath, looking both of them in the eyes. Yes. I don't want to give everything to you and end up in a nursing home. I'll live my way. That night, they left reluctantly, but my mind was made up. I'll move into senior welfare housing, and I'll live confidently. No more leaning on my kids. I'm taking the last chance to stand on my own, I told myself. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. Ms. Emily Thompson, this is senior housing. We're calling about your welfare housing application. My heart pounded. My future rested on this. Yes, go ahead, I replied, holding my breath. Congratulations. You've passed the initial screening. Please come for an interview next week. I couldn't hold back the tears. Hope was finally in sight. I passed the interview as well, and I was officially selected. Move-in day was a month away. I began the process of terminating my lease and packing up my things. My heart was heavy, but there was also excitement. A new start, true independence. I called my kids to let them know. Mark didn't answer, but Emily did. Mom, how are you? She asked, her voice warm but cautious. I'm good. Emily, I got into the welfare housing. There was a long silence on the other end. Congrats, Mom. When do you move? She finally asked. A month from now. I'm ending the lease and packing up, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh, when will you get the deposit? She asked, and I felt my grip on the phone tighten. Her first question wasn't about how I was doing or about my excitement. It was about the money. It'll come when the lease ends. Why? I replied, my voice tight. Oh, just, Mark's struggling with business funds, she said, almost apologetically. And just like that, I knew, the real reason they cared about my deposit wasn't about my well-being. They wanted it for his business. It's in my name, and I'll use it. No more of this talk, I said firmly. After hanging up, I felt a deep ache in my chest. I'd raised them for 30 years, barely asking for anything in return, and now they saw my money as theirs. The next day, Mark texted me, Mom, congrats on the housing. When's the deposit coming? Emily's tuition and my business need it. I didn't reply. I checked my account. It was still mine. Just to be safe, I changed the password at the bank. A week passed. No visits. Just text after text about the deposit. Mom, tuition's due soon. When's the deposit? Each message hurt more than the last. I felt like nothing more than an ATM to them. 2 weeks before my move, Mark and Emily showed up together. I was glad they came, but I knew why they were there. Mom, how's the packing going? Mark asked, his tone almost casual. Almost done, Just the big furniture left, I replied, trying to sound upbeat. We'll help, Emily offered, but then the real question came. Can we talk about the deposit? Mark asked cautiously. I stared at them, then replied, What's left to say? It's mine. Mom, Emily's tuition, and my business expansion, Mark began. So you want the rest of it after the $10,000 deposit? I said, cutting him off. You won't need it, right? Mark pressed, his voice tinged with frustration. Won't need it? Am I dying? I'll live for at least 20 more years. I need it for living expenses and medical costs. I won't beg you, I shot back, my anger rising. Emily stepped in. Mom, we didn't mean it like that. Since it's only $180 a month, I held up my hand, stopping her. Stop. I've seen so many seniors give everything to their kids and get abandoned. I won't let that happen to me. Mark's frustration boiled over. We wouldn't abandon you. We just need the funds now. Abandonment isn't just about kicking me out. It's ignoring my wishes, taking my money, and not respecting me. That's abandonment too, I said, my voice firm. They fell silent. I'm drawing the line. My money is mine. When I'm gone, you can have it. That's the right order, I added. Mark sighed deeply. Okay, Mom. Sorry. And I don't need help moving. I've got a moving service, I said. But, Mark started to protest. Jessica's handling it, I finished, cutting him off. They stood awkwardly in the doorway. Emily turned before leaving. Can we still visit? She asked quietly. Of course, just no more talk about the deposit, I replied. After the door closed behind them, I collapsed on the sofa, tears streaming down my face. The words of so many seniors I'd worked with over the years echoed in my mind. Teacher Emily, I ended up here watching my kids' moods. They took my apartment. Now they don't call. I gave them everything, and now I'm a burden. For the first time I understood, but with one big difference. I still had the power to choose. I wasn't giving everything away. I was going to take charge of my retirement. After that, my kids stopped contacting me. As move-in day approached, loneliness crept in, but so did my resolve. I was taking responsibility for my life. The night before, Mark called. Mom, you're moving tomorrow? I'll help. No need. I've got movers, I said. I'm sorry about the deposit stuff, he added. It's okay. You had your reasons. Want to see the new place? I hesitated, then said, Sure, once I'm settled. Hanging up, I felt lighter. I didn't want to cut them off completely. I just wanted to be financially independent. The next day, I moved into my new welfare housing. The deposit came safely into my account. I used some for the deposit and saved the rest. Jessica greeted me warmly. Congrats, Miss Emily. A fresh start. The place was small but mine, barrier-free, with safety features that were perfect for seniors. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. 6 months have passed since I moved into my new home. I thought it would feel strange and lonely at first, but to my surprise, it's been the opposite. I quickly made friends with other seniors who are in similar situations, and we started a morning exercise group in the park of our complex. Emily, you're up early again. Grandma Linda from next door greeted me one morning, her voice filled with cheer. Like me, she chose this place after conflicts with her kids. The morning air is so refreshing, and my knees are so much better now. I had gone from needing a wheelchair to walking with a cane, all thanks to the physical therapy offered by the complex. Best of all, I could live freely in my own space. No more tiptoeing around, just watching TV, chatting with friends, and enjoying my newfound independence. The $180 rent fit perfectly within my pension, and the savings from my deposit covered any emergencies that came up. My relationship with my kids has slowly begun to heal. At first, they rarely called, but a month into my new life, Jennifer came to visit. "Mom, this place is nicer than I thought. I was worried," she admitted, her eyes scanning the apartment. "It's great. So many people in the same boat as me, plus there's an emergency bell," I replied, smiling. Jennifer looked around, visibly impressed, before she added, "I'm sorry about the deposit stuff." "It's in the past," I reassured her, not wanting to revisit that. "How's Mark?" I asked, hoping for some sign of progress. "He's still upset, but I think he'll come around." Sure enough, 3 months later, Mark showed up with a small plant. "Housewarming gift, Mom," he said, looking almost sheepish. "Thanks, come on in," I responded, genuinely touched. He looked around, surprised. "This place is nice, it's clean, and it doesn't feel lonely." "Yeah, there are lots of seniors like me here," I replied with a grin. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "I'm sorry, Mom. We were selfish." "I get it. You had your struggles," I said, trying to understand. "No, Mom, it was greed," he said, his honesty softening me. It was hard to hear, but I knew that change was possible. Kids aren't perfect, but they can change. "Looking back, you were right," Mark said one day as we sat in the park, watching the others walk by. "This beats a nursing home." "Yeah, I'm doing great here," I agreed, a sense of peace settling in my heart. After that, they started visiting monthly. No more talks about the deposit, just genuine concern for my well-being. But the biggest change was in me. I had started volunteering, using my social work experience to help other seniors in the complex. Every Thursday, I sat in the library, listening to their worries and offering advice. "Thanks to you, Miss Emily, I feel lighter," they would say, and that made me feel like I was truly making a difference, something I hadn't experienced since I retired. I also signed up for computer classes at the local welfare center, and now I'm able to video call and shop online. It's opened up a whole new world for me. Small joys emerged too. On Saturdays, we'd gather with the neighbors to make kimchi or prepare side dishes. Each of us had our own stories, but we were united in support for one another. "Emily, you're brave, choosing this place over your kids' whims," Grandma Charlotte said one morning, watching me work in the garden. I smiled, grateful for her kind words. I was scared. What if they resented me? Could I manage on my own? I replied, wiping my brow. But I decided my life is mine to choose. On my first anniversary here, I threw a small celebration, inviting both my kids and neighbors. "Happy 1 year, Mom. You look so happy," Mark said, his voice full of warmth. "Yeah, I've finally found my life," I replied, my heart full. After the meal, with just my kids left, I said, "I've got something to say." They tensed, unsure of what was coming next. "Don't worry, it's not bad," I reassured them. "I just want to thank you both for understanding my choice." Jennifer's eyes welled up. "We should be thanking you, Mom. Seeing you live so confidently has taught us so much." "Good, now, prepare for your old age," I said, teasing them. "Don't rely on your kids." We all laughed, a sense of relief washing over me. We could finally talk freely like this, and it felt like I had truly taken charge of my life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've gained valuable insights from today's story. It's a journey of independence, resilience, and realizing the power to choose your path in life, even when faced with challenges. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one key takeaway from this story that you will bring into your own life? Please share it with us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring stories and helpful content. Your support means a lot, and it helps us continue to share valuable lessons with you. Thanks again for watching.